Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jason Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Big Three NBA podcast. We have the usual crew, Sherrod Blakely, Gary Washburn, myself, Kwani Lunis. Thank you for joining us today. And we're just going to start right off the top. Obviously, well, we could start actually with college ball if you guys want. The women's national championship has been named. UConn Huskies. Yeah?
Shout out to Sarah Strong, a.k.a. Allison Feaster's baby.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah is the truth. I've known of her and her daddy and her mama for over 20 some odd years. When mom and daddy were boyfriend and girlfriend, that's when I knew them. Sarah was nowhere to be seen back then. But I'm super happy for Allison, super happy for Sarah and Danny Strong, Sarah's dad, who I've known again ever since he was playing at North Carolina State and I covered the team. When old girl was all state as a freshman, that's when I kind of knew she was going to be kind of nice. And so it's great to see what she was able to do. And obviously Paige Beckers and that whole UConn crew. And the outcome was not surprising when you look at just the way UConn was building up to that. And we'll certainly talk about it later. But being at your best when the games matter most, that's exactly what UConn did. And that's certainly something that the team that we're following, the Celtics, are going to try to do as well.
Right.
See that full circle there? You see that, Kwani? You see that?
There, yeah, I like it. Gary, any thoughts? We're actually recording this right before the men's championship, so we don't know exactly who will be the winner of that one. That's a little later tonight, but at least we got one out the way.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. You know, UConn was a 2 seed, but they just rolled over everybody. I think the toughest game, I know USC gave them a kind of a pushed them to the fourth quarter, and that was without Juju Watkins, but they rolled over UCLA. I thought UCLA had a chance to beat them, and that wasn't a close game. And I didn't think this was one of Dawn's best teams. Like you looked at this South Carolina team and you're like, yeah, they're pretty good, but you don't have like 3 top first round WNBA picks maybe in the starting 5 like they've had in the past with a lot of those great teams. So I kind of thinking it would be I gave UConn the edge, but I thought maybe they'd win by 12, not by like 23 and lead by as many as 30. But complete dominant effort. And it's funny. We all used to think that UConn was just like, it was boring and they were winning every year. Yeah. And who's going to watch women's basketball when it's the same old team winning.
Dawn made it fun.
And then all of a sudden, here comes Tennessee, here comes Baylor, here comes LSU, and UConn was kind of on the back burner. The afterthought. Gino was a coach. Well, do you still have it? Paige Beckers, hey, you're a great player, but you ain't won nothing yet. All the tags. AZ Fudd, you're very good, but you get hurt a lot. All these players had some type of chip on their shoulders, so it was good to see them just get that chip off their shoulders. UConn returned to prominence in the national spotlight. And also, obviously, happy for Allison Feaster, to see her daughter win the chip in her freshman year and be one of the more dominant players in the tournament. She's 18, 19 years old, so she's got an amazingly bright future. So it was good. I love women's college hoops. I watch it all the time. The tournament wasn't without Juju. That
lost some of the juice.
It wasn't. I think everybody, in Notre Dame getting knocked out. I like Notre Dame a lot in terms of their personnel. There were some household names there with Hannah Hidalgo and Olivia Miles. So the starch was a little bit out of the tournament, but just a completely impressive, amazing performance from UConn.
Absolutely. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, as you two probably saw, Vanessa Bryant posted saying that Gigi would have loved to be there. And everyone pointed out the fact that if she was still with us and playing, she probably would have been a freshman at UConn as well. So, of course, there's, the reminiscing, too, of what could have been for us in the connection, but also just generally remembering 2 people that we lost too soon. Moving on. Let's talk about the Naismith Hall of Fame, the announcement this past week the inductees were officially dropped. Carmelo Anthony, Gary, your favorite person, Dwight Howard.
Gary, did you vote for Carmelo to get in the Hall of Fame?
I know he's never going to live it down. I had to. On the W side, Sue Bird, Maya Moore, Sylvia Fowles, Chicago coach and two-time NCAA champ Billy O'Donovan, of course, Al Horford's old head coach. A lot of good names on that list. But what did you guys think about the drop? Were there any surprises for you when you looked at the list?
What do you think, Gary?
I'm gonna, no Marcus Johnson. I'm still waiting for one of my good guys in the league, a guy I've known for a long time, to get into the Hall of Fame. I was hoping that one of the former, like the players from the 70s or 80s, would get in, but none of the candidates got in. I was a little disappointed in that. I think the interest. I think Carmelo, obviously, first ballot. Dwight Howard's a person that is always. People have always said there's no way he could be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but you look at his numbers. He's a first ballot. I hate to tell people who don't believe it. He had first ballot Hall of Fame numbers. I mean, he did. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, multi-time All-NBA, one of the more dominant centers. I think we all. One, I know Dwight still probably wants to play, and we don't really view him as an old head. But I think he kind of. How do I put this? Dwight is accused for not taking the game probably as seriously as he should, always having a smile on his face, not being that like all-time great that he probably could have been, never, developing like a 15-foot jumper, things that, in all honesty, he could have worked on, but he was still a great player.
Yeah, so, it's like the kid in class that's really smart but just doesn't do the homework, and you're like,
yeah, like he could have been a 4.0, but he ended up being a 3.3, and it was good enough for him to get in. But we all kind of think of what if Dwight doesn't ask out of Orlando, what happens if Dwight sticks it out with Kobe in L.A. Instead of asking to go to Houston, and all of a sudden he went from Houston to Atlanta, and then Charlotte, and then the Lakers and the Sixers. Like all of a sudden he was just a journeyman. I don't, so it's kind of bittersweet when you think of a guy like Dwight Howard because of what could have been. Now, if you look at those Orlando tapes, you look at him in his first 7-8 years, he was a dude. He was a dominant big man. I remember I think Sherrod might have even been sitting next to me. We're at the playoffs in 2010, the year the Celtics beat them to go to the finals and lost the Lakers 7 games. And we were sitting in Orlando, sitting behind one of the baskets on a bench, on a table. Dwight chases a loose ball, lands in damn near my lap, and I look down, he's literally smiling. Like he just loved it. Like he was smiling. It was just like, this dude is crazy. Like this dude, like, he's not like, oh, I'm hurt. He died, and I look down at his face, smile. Like, like he loved just running in. He just loved being there, and he was playing the game like a little boy. So that was definitely one of my memories of Dwight. Just looking down, he was like near me, and I'm like, "Damn, are you okay?" or whatever. And he just grinning, and it was just like, just ear to ear. And I was just like, "Wow, what a young man!" And I said, we didn't get to see probably him finish his career how he wanted to. Same with Carmelo. We could say that Carmelo didn't get that championship that he wanted. He of course, got a championship with that school in Western New York. I can't remember the name.
The purple, green, they had a color. Yeah. Yeah.
The Greenman,
the school that beat Boston College, and the school that beat DC in Cal football.
The Citrus Men.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
okay, Pigeons.
he won a championship somewhere. I can't remember the school though. But happy for Carmelo. Always been a good guy. Always been a good guy in terms of dealing with him during the years. And if you ask a lot of people about Carmelo, and obviously the Denver years, what if he doesn't ask out of Denver and go to New York and all that? There's always a what ifs, especially when guys change teams like that. But you ask people about how was the guard Carmelo at 6'9", big physical, just kind of Paul Pierce part 2 kind of, right? Just a big physical dude who get to his spot, and then with the feathery touch around the basket and the mid range, you hear people say, "Man, that dude, don't discount what he contributed to the NBA."
Yeah, I mean, of the folks that went in, I would say Dwight was the guy that I was a little bit surprised, only because often when it comes to Hall of Famers, it's not even about the numbers. It's about the perception of them when they played. And I thought Dwight got a bad rap for being, frankly, not as good as he actually was. When you start looking at the guys that he absolutely kicked their ass on a regular basis, there's a lot of them. I mean, Dwight had a lot of big man victims throughout his career, and he absolutely, without question, deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. I did not think he'd get in on first ballot, though. I thought that he might get basically kind of cast aside a couple times before he actually got in. So that was the one guy that I didn't think would get in the first ballot. I was happy to see that 2008 Dream Team get in. And special shout out to my dude Tayshaun Prince, the former Celtic, who was on that Dream Team. People forget that Tay was on that squad.
Yeah, that's where his best years were, in Boston. Oh my God.
I'm just saying.
Dominguez High's finest, Tayshaun Prince.
Exactly.
Dominguez High finest.
So I was really happy to see them get recognized, because Tayshaun has always been, to me, that one guy that won a championship in Detroit that never really got his due. People often just kind of look at him as just a guy that was kind of along for the ride. But I'm telling you, few people in the NBA could defend Kobe Bryant as well as Tayshaun could. And the reason the Pistons were able to beat the Lakers in basically a 5-man gentleman sweep was because of Tayshaun's defense on Kobe. Kobe was never comfortable in that series. And Tayshaun had a lot to do with that. So for him to get some praise, years after the fact, was really good to see for me. Because again, Tay's a good dude, man. And I'm really happy that he's getting recognized in that, and for the role that he played, and the team that really set things in motion for the men's Olympic team to be as dominant as they've been, like the last, I want to say, 4 or 5 Olympic games.
That makes sense. All right, looking ahead, let's talk about the Celtics now. They're likely to begin the playoffs as number 2 seed. At this point, we kind of figure that much. But Cleveland win or Boston loss would make the Cavs officially the top seed, and of course, Boston the number 2 seed. The Celtics have a few more games left. We're literally winding down the few games that they have. But from the last 4 that they have at this point, what do you both think is the best matchup for Boston at this point?
I gotta believe, looking at the teams, I want to say Chicago, because I just don't think Chicago's that good. I think they play hard. I just don't think they're that good. It's not any more complicated than that. The Celtics, I think, are appreciably better. I think the Celtics would have a little bit more of a pushback from the Hawks, because they got a great player in Trae Young. Orlando with Banchero, and the other team, Miami always they're not gonna just walk away and not put up a fight. To me, Chicago is the weakest of the foursome. And if I'm the Celtics, yeah, I'm not afraid to play them, but I know I'm probably, if I want to get through in 4 games, maybe 5, Chicago's probably the best bet for the Celtics to do that.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a bad pun here, a slam dunk sweep series.
Oh.
No. Let me finish.
Now, Kwani, Gary, don't you say a single word when Kwani be hitting you with one of those Kwani-isms, because what you just did was so much worse than what she does. So,
and I rooted for it. I was really proud of you.
No, I think that any of the, I don't know if they'll play Miami. I mean, Miami could be a challenge, but Chicago's a team that's big and physical, and Kobe White's playing very well now, and they're, Josh Giddey, they're a team that could get a game maybe. Orlando's a team that kind of, they still can't score, and they still don't have a point guard, but over the years they played the Celtics pretty tough. And so and they're kind of the favorite. I think right now they lead for the 7th seed, so they would play maybe Atlanta or Chicago. We'll see how that goes at home. In the winter, we'll obviously play the Celtics and get that 7th seed. Atlanta's a team that, they're decimated with injuries, but they keep kind of hanging in there and winning and just being decent, right? with Trey Young, and now they added Karis LeVert and Georges Niang, and they're playing the big kid out of USC. I always butcher his last name. The center, he's getting more minutes. Akawandu. And I think they're a pesky team. I think there's 3 pesky or 4 pesky teams. Now, do I think the Celtics have any threat to go 6 or 7? No. But either team, any of those teams could take a game, I believe, if the Celtics are like a little bit sleepwalking, right? I don't think that there's this like, oh, that team is just trash. Like, all those 4 teams, Miami, Chicago, Orlando, and Atlanta, can put together one quality game, maybe game 3 at home or something like that, and get one in that series. I don't think there's an easy matchup, but the Celtics obviously should have no trouble. Orlando might take a chunk of what you don't want is a team to take a chunk out of you, right? Like a couple years ago when Atlanta took the Celtics to 6 games and they won Game 5 in Boston. And you had to go all the way back to Atlanta and then close it out. And you're like, you don't want no suspense in the first round. You want last year, Miami took game 2, and the Celtics said, okay, none of this. Took the next 3 games. You want to just restore, get back to normal. You want to get yourself some rest. You want to take care of business. No playing with your food. So I think the best team for the probably might be Chicago or Atlanta. Miami, I don't trust playing against Spo. Spo will muck it up. Exactly. Spo had a plan when Miami came to Boston last week. I mean, he had a plan, and the Heat beat him by 20 points. And yeah, it was like not the greatest performance in terms of the Celtics. They didn't have much to play for, all their variables, but they still handled the Celtics. And you think Spo might be capable of 1 or maybe 2 of those types of games in the playoffs where he just mucks it up, puts a crazy defense all of a sudden. So I'd rather face Billy Donovan, Quinn Snyder, who's still a good coach, and then Jamal Mosley, all good coaches. But I think the Celtics will want to avoid Miami just for the repetitiveness.
Yeah, and again, as you pointed out, Gary, with Chicago, they do have, they have a level of physicality that they can bring to a series. But I think the Celtics, they've answered a lot of the questions and concerns I think a lot of us had about their size or their ability to play big. They've done, I think, a surprisingly good job. When you look at their rebounding numbers the last 5-6 games, I mean, they've been just killing it on the boards. And I know it hasn't been the greatest level of competition, but still, rebounding is so much about effort. And the Celtics have shown an ability to play with great effort in multiple positions, not just their bigs, but also guards like Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard. Guys in the backcourt are also, doing some good things in terms of rebounding. Before we go any further, let me give a quick shout out to our good friends at Prize Picks. Springtime is here and baseball season is officially underway. Red Sox, look like they're about to score like the Patriots used to score the other night. Damn near 20 runs they scored. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond to your Prize Picks lineup, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs. Take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash today. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, which is America's #1 daily fantasy sports. Again, this is the best place to win cash while watching your favorite players. Prize Picks offers lots of weekly promotions such as Taco Tuesday, where discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. They've also invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So what do you got to do? It's real simple. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
Okay, let's get back into the Celtics a little bit more. First, we're going to talk about a player we've been talking about the last few weeks because of his injuries, Jaylen Brown, and what the level of concern has been as a result of him not being able to be 100% at this point. As we check out of the regular season, how do you two feel right now?
Where you at, Gary? I'm curious what you're thinking, Gary, in this one.
I think he's going to need some more games to kind of work on. I mean, he's been fine. He had 31 points the other night against Phoenix. The question is whether we will see that Jaylen with that first step, that spring, that jump, or is he going to have to be throughout the next 2 months kind of Paul Pierce like Jaylen? As Jaylen said, he had talked to Paul Pierce, not that night because Pierce was at the Phoenix game, but just over the, looking at some Paul Pierce tape and seeing how he can get his shot off, how he can use his size and his burliness and his muscle to create space and to be an effective mid-range player. And this is a process he's probably going to have to learn over the next couple of weeks, the next week or so, and maybe in practice. I don't think it just sounds like the knee's not going to be 100% throughout the playoffs. It's not going to be something that's like, oh, by Eastern Conference Finals, I'm going to be back to, Jaylen at the beginning of the season when I'm completely healthy. I think there's going to be something he's going to have to deal with, but I think everybody's dealing with something. So I feel good about his production of late. I feel good about what he's doing. He seems to be taking the game slow, and maybe this will be another element, even when he gets the athleticism 100% back, to learn how to kind of, sometimes we all see Jaylen going a little too fast, doing a little too much, taking 1-on-3, trying to take somebody off the dribble, woo, gets stripped or whatever. Maybe this will be kind of another element he can add to his game where he can slow down a bit and take that kind of page out of Carmelo or Pierce's books where it's like, listen, I'm going to post you up. I'm strong enough. You can't get up and block it. I'm a fade away. I'm going to use my size and my strength and my muscular build to kind of, push you around and get to my spots. And if I don't score, I'm getting to the free throw line. So the important thing for Jaylen is to continue his improvement at the free throw line. I think he's had a good second half of the season at the free throw line. He's not as erratic from the stripe, and that's going to be big because there's going to be a game or two or maybe even three where he's going to be at the line for some big free throws, and he's going to need to knock them down. And none of this 71% stuff. He's got to get up in the 80 range.
You mentioned a good point of the other NBA players that he's looked up to. Against the game on Friday when they played the Suns, obviously he wasn't playing. Pierce was there, though. And he talked about the fact that he has been studying Pierce's game, trying to get in the right spots. How important is that from your perspective, both of your perspectives, not only to study players that have been in the franchise, but just constantly watching other players that have proven that they have that greatness aspect?
Well, it's huge. I mean, it's huge because NBA players, I've found at some point when they've been in the league for a minute, they start thinking about how can I stay in the game? What can I do to stay on top? If I'm one of the top 10, top 15, top 20 players, what do I got to do to stay in that range? And you can't run out the same type of game year after year after year after year. That's not going to get it done because the teams are going to evolve. Teams are going to adjust. They're going to adapt to what you do. You've got to have counters for the counters that you develop for the counters. And Jaylen understands that he is not going to have all the answers. So what do? You learn from those around you. You learn from those who've done it before.
And that's how you drop 31.
Exactly. Well, think about it, though. When Paul Pierce came into the NBA, people don't realize this. Paul had bounce. Had like real legit like slam dunk competition type bounce. And then he realized after some years that, you know what, I got to slow the game down. I got to use my size. I got to use my muscle to score from the elbow, score in the mid-range, score going to the basket, do different things to show that you can impact the game. My concern with Jaylen Brown is not scoring the ball. He's good enough to figure out how to do that and do it in a multitude of ways. My concern with Jaylen is his defense because when you start talking about like knee soreness and things like that, and Gary, and Kwani, we've seen this time and time again. Where do players usually try to catch a breath? Where do they usually try to basically hold back a little bit? It's usually on defense. They don't maybe close out as well as they do. Maybe don't move as laterally quick as they're accustomed to, and they take shortcuts. That's typically where that happens, and that's my concern for Jaylen, that he will be dealing with this pain threshold a different level when he's on offense, differently than he does on defense. Are you giving that same type of getting over the pain threshold defensively as you're doing getting to your spots on offense. That's my concern with Jaylen. And I don't think it's a conscious thing. I don't think it'll be something that he'll be thinking about. I just think that he'll have moments where the body ain't feeling great. So I'm just going to maybe funnel the ball handler to the middle, or I'm going to switch on a double team, or switch on a pick and roll sooner than I normally would, which may lead to a guy getting a wide open shot or a lightly contested shot. Those are the things that concern me about Jaylen Brown because, again, he has shown the ability to be a major scorer, and I do like the idea of him slowing things down from an offensive standpoint. Because as the game slows down, if you got somebody who can get a mismatch on that elbow and can score from that spot, can put the ball on the floor good enough to maybe get to the paint, but maybe not all the way to the cup sometimes, I like that dimension that he can bring to the table. And we all know Paul Pierce is one of the best we've seen at doing that, making teams struggle to defend him when he gets the ball on that elbow because he can shoot it from there, he can put it on the floor, or he can step back and knock it down. So I like the idea that Jaylen is looking at some Paul Pierce tape, trying to figure out what elements of Paul's game he can incorporate in his, because they really do both. I think Paul benefited from bully ball, and Jaylen, I think, is trying to follow suit.
And I want to say that if you look at Jaylen's last 16 games, his shooting percentage is up, his three-point percentage is up a tick, his scoring average is down because he's playing fewer minutes, but his free throw percentage, 81% over the last 16 games. That's the type of clip that he needs to have, not the 72, 73 stuff that we're used to that, Jaylen will go 6 for 8 on one night or 6 for 9 or 7 for 10. You need to go 7 for 9, 8 for 9, 9 for 9, right? So the fact that he has shot 81% since the All-Star break from the free throw line is a really, really encouraging sign that a lot of people are talking about, because I know his free throw shooting has been one of his kind of detractors, Achilles' heels over the years. So I think that just shows that Jaylen's been working on his game. He's been improving. It's not been a great Jaylen season. I think we can all admit that. It's not been one of those, man, he might be first team, second team All-NBA. He might make third. We'll see. If he gets that 65 game, he's got to play 3 out of the last 4 games to get there. But to see his improvement in the second half and 81% from the line is a good sign.
Another thing we talked about last week is the fact that he does need 3 out of those 4 last games to be qualified. How much of a motivating factor do you think that is for him to play, despite the fact that, of course, it's not load management, it is an injury situation for him?
What do you think, Gary?
For me, I think it's big, not only just to be eligible for awards, but to just say he's durable and he can play. Nobody wants to play 62 and 8. Nobody wants to look at your career stats and you miss 20 games,
right,
or 19 games. You want to get to that, at least be eligible for the award, even if you don't get it. I think there's some motivation, not only with, okay, Jaylen wants to get all NBA. Of course, who doesn't want to get honors? Who doesn't want to get a pat on the back for their accomplishments? But I also think with Jaylen, it is a matter of just pride. Like, I want to be a dude who can be out there every night. Like, Jason's that guy, right? We all know Jason will play all 82 if the Celtics wanted him to. He can do it. And I think Jaylen's saying, hey, I've had some injuries, the adductor injury, and, I've been slowed a little bit, but I'm going to be there when y'all need me. And I think that's a really important for Jaylen. As much as it is to get the honors, I just think for him to be a reliable guy for his teammates is important.
That's a good point.
Well, this is how I kind of look at it. I think it is important. And I think he absolutely has his mind to some extent on getting to 65. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, there's the monetary aspect of it where, I'm pretty damn near every contract an NBA player signs, you get a little extra cheddar if you make all NBA. They deserve it if you do that. But I think for Jaylen, think about this for a minute. Jaylen is playing with a guy like Jason Tatum, who, if we're honest and if we keep it 100, if Jason Tatum woke up tomorrow morning and decided he does not want to play in the NBA anymore, he's still going into the Hall of Fame. He may not be a first ballot Hall of Fame, but he has already put together a body of work that is Hall of Fame worthy. I don't think that's even an issue. Jaylen, on the other hand, is pretty damn close.
That's huge.
And people in this era know how good Jaylen Brown has been. But 10 years from now, if you looking back at his numbers and you see the numbers, but you don't see any All-NBA, you don't see any, other than maybe some All-Star appearances, you might question just how impactful he was because you didn't see it. But when you're able to get things like all NBA third team, all NBA second team, it validates the work that you have put in as a player. And that validation is something that down the road, you want it to speak for itself. You don't want to have people have to come out and defend why you were a baller, why you did this. You want people to be able to just Google your name, see your numbers, see your stats, see the awards and honors that you received when you played, and just be like, okay, my bad. He was better than I thought. Or you know what? This confirms what I've been telling people, that he was nice. That, to me, is why these all NBA honors are so important. And this year, maybe more than any other, his chances of making it without necessarily having a great season are greater when you look at the number of guys who aren't going to qualify. And if you're Jaylen Brown, you know that if everyone who has played in the NBA were eligible, you would probably be on the outside looking in. But when you think about some of the guys who are not going to make it, Jaylen is very much in the conversation for probably third team. Jalen Brunson, I had a conversation with James Edwards of The Athletic last week, and we talked about Jalen Brunson and his quest to get to 65. And Jalen Brunson didn't even try to fake the funk about it. He absolutely wants to get there because he wants to get that acknowledgement for what he has done, the body of work that he's put together this year. I don't think Jaylen Brown is any different in that regard. I think Jaylen understands that, you only have so many opportunities to establish yourself as one of the best in this game, and not only play at that level, but have the recognition from others throughout the league that you were that good. And if you're Jaylen Brown, this is a perfect opportunity to do that. And all you got to do is simply play in like 3 of the next 4 games. And you obviously want to play well.
Yeah.
But you got to at least qualify. You got to play them at least to qualify. So before we go any further, I want to give a shout out to another one of our good friends, Game Time. Game Time has you covered with great ticket prices on all types of sporting events as well as concerts. When I'm thinking about going to a game, that is the first place I go. And again, when you're talking about Game Time, it's one of the really cool things about the app is that it has the all-in pricing that shows you the total price before you get to checkout, and you get a panoramic view of the seat that you choose before you have to check out. And that's a huge, huge benefit, which takes a lot of the guesswork and uncertainty out of getting a ticket with a good sightline. What do you have to do? Simple. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's download the app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off. Terms apply. What time is it? Game time.
Game time it is. All right, let's close out with talking about everyone's favorite guy. Guess who I'm talking about?
Luke.
You just guessed that because it's in the rundown. Yes, Luke Kornet.
Kwani, if we're keeping it real though.
What? He is though.
There's no one else to really talk about that we haven't talked about 7 or 8 times already.
You're absolutely right. And we've talked about him every week at least for the last month at this point.
He's given us reason to. Which is Gary's favorite player, by the way.
It tees up the first question perfectly, though. The fact that we've been talking about him, the fact that he stood out in the Celtics rotation at this point. Do you both think that he's now eligible to be a part of the playoff rotation?
Yep. I think Luke is going to they're going to find a way to get Luke on the floor every game. I don't think there's going to be a situation or scenario where Luke is not going to be on the floor. And the one thing that Luke is doing, and there's kind of a back and forth about, all you people said Luke sucked, he wasn't that good. Now what you got to say? You know what I say to that? This is what I say to that. Luke is finally playing the way we've been wanting him to play from the jump. We got sick and tired of seeing Luke set great screens. Woo, nice. Or Luke defend someone 7 feet away from them, pretending as if, what they call the Luke contest, where he basically gives you a wide open shot. He just jump from the paint. No, Luke is offensive rebounding like a madman. He is defending. He is blocking shots. He's getting the ball on the block and actually making a move to try and score now. He was not doing that before. And so to me, his growth and evolution has been so important to the Celtics' success. And frankly, he becomes another player that teams have to now put in the scouting report. Yeah. You cannot play the Celtics now and not think about, we need to keep Luke Kornet off the glass. And that's something that if we're talking 2, 3, 4 months ago, nobody was saying that. And it's the transformation of his game is so great that he has played his way into a regular spot in rotation. I don't think that's even an issue. He may be the Celtics' third center, but that third center gonna get some burn.
Yeah.
Facts. Gary, talk about your boy, your favorite player, Luke Kornet.
No, I think he's had a tremendous year. He has proven to be capable, very capable, productive backup to Kristaps and sometimes Al Horford. I think they're trusting him more. And I think he's been more aggressive. I think he's been, hey, Luke, dunk on that guy. Don't just lay it in. Dude, Luke, go up for the jam. Go up hard. Or get to the free throw line. Don't pass it out necessarily. You don't always, I know the Celtics love to shoot threes, but if you're at the rim, dunk that damn thing. Just get two real quick. Y'all get a three. Believe me, they'll take a three on the next possession, Luke. So you ain't got to worry about not being a team player and passing out to Jason or Derek or Sam for a three or Peyton. They'll take a three on the next possession. They'll catch up. So, I mean, to me, it's just good to see the growth of a young man. I mean, and he's still relatively young. I think Luke is 28, 29. And so, he's hitting that apex in his career, and it's good to see him emerge. Now, will he be priced out when this summer comes? He's free agent. I think he probably will be. This might be his final postseason with the Celtics, but it's good to see him grow, and it's good to see him become a major asset for this team where they can, put him in there in case Kristaps or Al gets into foul trouble. They can use him as a reliable third center. They can do things with Luke into the game plan where they can get him alley-oops, where they can get him little short jumpers or hook shots or, a little layup here and there, as opposed to, okay, Luke, set a screen and just get out of the way. Get in there, get your hands dirty, you're 7 foot, play like it. And I think it's been great to see him ascend and grow as a big man this year.
Yeah, and a big man who is going to get paid by someone. We don't know who, but he's going to get paid. I mean, now is he going to get like he ain't gonna get no supermax money, but he's gonna get more than Peyton Pritchard. He's gonna get more than Sam Hauser. I mean, he will be an 8-figure NBA player this offseason. And the thing that I like about him getting that kind of money, he's getting that money because he went out and played for it. He's getting that kind of money because he actually earned it. It's not like he had a good couple of weeks and then all of a sudden they think he's like the basketball messiah. Think he's Kevin McHale 2.0. No, Luke has put together a great body of work doing all the little things that we have been wanting him to do. Because remember, when they first brought Luke into the fold, we thought Luke was a guy that they were bringing in because of his ability to stretch the floor. And all we saw him do was stretch his arms and his legs and set screens. That's the only thing he was stretching. So it's just like, I felt hoodwinked, bamboozled, and let it stretch.
Run him up.
Out of here.
Run amok.
But now, ran amok, and now Luke is running to the rim. That's what I'm talking about. The Luke Kornet that we're seeing now is a Luke Kornet that I thought that the Celtics were going to get some variation of earlier. So it's better late than never, and his timing could not be better because when you have an opportunity to maximize your earning potential and you're playing your best basketball, come on. That is, we call that 7-11. He's right on time. Right on time.
Oh yeah. Anyway,
that's dice, Kwani.
I thought it was
open 24 hours.
Yeah, I was like 7-Eleven is not 24 hours, so that's not where he's going.
Go ahead.
If Paul Pierce is listening to this, Paul Pierce know what I'm talking about.
Paul Pierce, I hope you do listen to this because if you do, you need to come on the podcast. But you both bring up a really good point. Clearly, the confidence has grown. The trust from the Celtics has grown as well. What more do you want to see out of Luke at this point?
Gary, what you got? What you want to see from your boy?
Just continued growth, being aggressive, getting to the free throw line, blocking some shots, just doing things that, quite honestly, a big man does. He doesn't have to score 25, 30 points. He doesn't he just has to do what his job. Set screens, rebound, get the offensive rebound, be open for the alley-oop dunks. And when you catch the alley-oop, Luke, dunk the damn ball. Don't lay it in, don't get cute. No, play 7 foot. Be that tall guy. You're a tall guy, play like a tall guy. I just want to see the continued growth, and I think he'll be fine.
I want to see Luke at least test the limits of being more of a stretch big. Because I do think that that's the one thing Luke does not do now, that if you're talking about areas of his game that he can expand going forward and be more impactful, I think that's one of them. And I've been very surprised that we haven't seen more work and effort put in that happening. I mean, you remember when Al Horford was in Atlanta? Al was great around the basket, and they figured, well, you know what? He's got this great touch around the basket. Let's see if we can stretch it out and extend it a little bit. And the next thing you know, Al Horford is a freaking 40% 3-point shooter, but at a pretty consistent clip. And looking at the way Luke has been able to finish around the rim, whether it's dunks, whether it's layups, putbacks, I would like to see him experiment a little bit more, particularly earlier in the season. Certainly not now. Hell no, right. Not now. This ain't the time to be tinkering with your game. I would like to see him next season, whether he's in Boston or elsewhere, look for ways to expand his game offensively, because I think who he is as a defender is pretty much this is who Luke is. He's not going to change or deviate much from that. But I do think there are levels to his game at the offensive end of the floor that he can explore, get better at, and frankly just even increase his value beyond what it will be once he signs his next deal.
All right, folks, the season's winding down. 2 more games away. Gary's in New York right now. 2 more games to close out the season at home. Final thoughts on it's the regular season. I don't really think there's much to say anymore, but final thoughts on the regular season.
The regular season, if you're just looking at the numbers, it's been a pretty good regular season for the Celtics. You look, I mean, they've set a single season record for 3-pointers. They've had a number of guys who've done great things from an individual standpoint. The team has really shown themselves to be more than up for the fight at defending their championship. And now we're getting to that point where it's like, let's go. It's time to get it going. But there are a couple of things that concern me about their title defense. And we talked about one of them today, and that's Jaylen Brown and his health. I think that will be one of those wild card / X factors in the playoffs. Kristaps Porzingis is always going to be an X factor just because of who he is and what he can do. I don't want to put a ton of pressure on him, but Peyton Pritchard, when you've been basically the front runner for 6th man of the year most of the season, and you have the green light, the neon green light that he has to shoot the rock, you need to come through and deliver. And Peyton, I think the latter part of the season, he's been a little bit more up and down than he was those first few months, and so his play is going to be a major factor as well. So to me, those are the things that I'm looking for, not necessarily in these last 4 games, but certainly once we get into the postseason, those are some of the things that really are worth watching and paying close attention to.
Yeah, I think it's been an overall pretty good season. Could it have been better? I mean, you can nitpick and say, yeah, they could have every team has games they probably could have won that they didn't. Are there 5 or 6 games the Celtics could have won, especially the ones at home, that could have put them at the number 1 seed? Yes, there are. They didn't play perfect, and there were times where they just got flat beat, but there were other times they didn't play as well. And so this road is going to be much tougher than it was last year, and I hope for the Celtics' sake, their preparation is not better, because it was good last year, but they are ready for that ride. I think this regular season, the fact that they've played a lot better over the last couple of weeks, since that Houston loss where Dylan Brooks hit 10 3-pointers, they have been almost flawless. Obviously, the loss to Oklahoma City, you can put in there, and some of the, they've lost a game here or there, but they have been almost flawless for the last about 2+ months. And so you got to like that if you're a Celtic fan. And I think that they're at the perfect position at this point. The only concern, like you guys have said, is Jalen's knee, but Kristaps appears completely healthy. Al didn't have too much tread. Niles taking off his tires. Luke's playing well. Derek and Drew seem to be healthy. We don't really talk about Drew's finger anymore. That's not something that appears to be a major factor like that there was the initial thought it would be. So they're in a very good position. Remember, Kristaps did not play most of the last postseason. So if you're the Celtics, you're probably better equipped. However, the competition is going to be harder. So we'll see how they respond.
All right. Well, we're almost there. Friends of the podcast, make sure you're subscribed if you haven't done so already. Share with a friend. Let's get these numbers up. Let's make sure that people are hearing the gospel of the Big 3 NBA Shenanigans podcast.
Well.
But as usual, we appreciate everyone that watches and listens. Of course, for Sherrod Blakely, Gary Washburn, I'm Kwani Lunis. Like I said, we are the Big Three NBA podcast. We appreciate you listening.
We out.